Sir, you wouldn't believe it. It looks like you are right. The stocks are up.
It's almost like he's Satoru Gojo, the strongest. Thank you to our $5 patrons, Red Bull 4765, Midnight Gem Lord, and Sean. Another thank you to our $3 members, Wakanda Plays, and Red Bull 4765. And a very big thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha and iDemoKami. And a very big thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. Before we hop into this breakdown and review of chapter 226 of Jujutsu Kaisen, please don't forget to leave your own on the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also hit that little notification bell to miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below, each for as low as $1 $1 to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the review. What's up, guys? All Pencil here, and hey, Sukuna fans, is this your man's? Is this your man's? In his own domain, Sukuna fans, is this your man's? Like, Sukuna fans, is this your bro? This is your homie. This is the one that you call the strongest, huh? He gonna win. He gonna win after he got. I'm sorry, Sukuna fan. You know that's rude. I shouldn't be talking like this. Especially, what am I even talking about? You know, like, it was over. The fight was over last chapter because Sukuna beat Infinite Void and got Gojo in his domain, so it's an automatic GG. The fight was only 3 chapters long, right, Sukuna fans? All right. No, don't get me wrong. Before I even hop into the chapter itself, I am wholeheartedly willing to admit that Sukuna's going to get his get back next chapter. Like, trust me, I've read a shonen manga before. And once again, while I do not believe that Gojo is the main character, I also don't believe that Sukuna is the final villain. So I do believe that this fight has more to it, but I don't think it is the final fight, and I still don't think Gojo's going to lose. But regardless, I know Sukuna has not dropped a single one of the 10 shadows yet. I know he definitely still has a deeper bag. We haven't even seen the fire stuff yet. I know Sukuna fans, but I'm gonna take this one because everyone was talking down on Gojo. 58 minutes. I forget who that commenter was, but when I saw 58 minutes of copium on the last review, I laughed. Even though they were right. But regardless, I ain't switch up. And now, I don't know, I see Sukuna stocks in the trash right now. But enough of that. Let's hop right into the chapter itself. So we open up right where we left off with Gojo Satoru, the strongest, getting, the clean cut in his neck. And admittedly, I didn't talk about this last chapter because I was admittedly going on for a hot minute last chapter. But this still seems weird. I know Gojo's domain just collapsed. But, like, was anyone expecting, like, more than one cut? Like, I know we sort of get what I expect later on in the chapter, but before we get to that, like, the fact that there's only one cut on Gojo, it's cool. It's especially good for, like, an end of chapter thing where you're trying to grab the audience's attention, but, like, isn't Malevolent Shrine kind of, like, a billion cuts at the same time? Isn't that why Maharaga almost got overwhelmed, even though it had adapted to slashing attacks? Like, every time we've seen Malevolent Shrine used before, it's never just been like one cut in sequence. But maybe this is just how it always has been, but Gege's never shown us like the step-by-step process. I don't know. I was thinking about it, especially after the chapter opened up, and it just felt a little bit strange. But I will admit, it makes a really cool visual, like seeing the slice, especially where it's placed. Like, I definitely get, even if I'm like clowning on Sukuna fans as of recent, I'd say clouding on Sukuna fans, like, I don't also agree with y'all that he's like top 2 in the verse, possibly top 1 if you give him full hacks. Like, I mean, I still think Gojo's stronger because he's Satoru Gojo. But regardless, like, I really say, like, oh, Sukuna fans this, Sukuna fans that. Like, I'm not a Sukuna fan. Like, I don't believe 15-finger dog walks the verse, because I do believe that. Like, I'm sorry, Yuta fans. Still, there's nothing, like, I saw a battle on another one of my platforms, TikTok. I'm that guy with the TikTok on TikTok. But no, I'm that guy with the TikTok on TikTok. So if you ever want more content from Pencil, pretty much every day, go over there. But I saw a battle on there that was like 15-finger Maguna versus Hikari, Maki, and Yuta. And I want you to realize 15-finger Sukuna still slams. But regardless of any of that, he is still very, very interesting to see how these two are interacting. And I do like how Gojo is genuinely like caught off guard and unhappy here. Like, notably, I saw some people. Now y'all think I'm a Kofium. you'll think I'm a copium huffer. You should have seen the Gojo fans after last chapter. Some of y'all probably did. But I saw people being like, no, you see, this is all part of Gojo's plan. And I'm like, dog, he is not Aizen. He just didn't know. Like, it's okay. Bro just got caught off guard. Because obviously, you know, the copium huffing was insane after last chapter. Heck, I should know myself. I used up 3 tanks. But regardless, the fact that people were like, this is all part of Gojo's plan, when he visibly looked shocked, was kind of concerning me. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Gojo can be caught off guard. But with that being the case, we see him caught off guard. But immediately, as Yuchi goes to freak out and geek out, Gojo is kind of, just fine. But it's super weird once again, because I talked about how Sukuna's domain doesn't seem to be as fast acting as it's supposed to be. Once again, I'm mostly chalking this up to the fact that maybe because of the fact that the domain was initially attacking the barrier and the sure hit in the general vicinity around Gojo was shut down. Maybe it's taken like a second for them to reach him, but the fact that Gojo managed to pretty much instantaneously RCT before another slash could hit him feels like Malevolent Shrine. Like, this feels like the slowest variation of Malevolent Shrine we've seen. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, people are able to react and have, like, a whole miniature conversation before things actually start to hit Gojo. I'm going to chalk it up to just to the fact that it was attacking the barrier, and the barrier thus caused, like, some input delay. Like, one slash that just whiffed the barrier managed to land on Gojo, and then the rest of the slashes was like, wait, hold on. There's nothing contesting me here. Let's get up in his guts. And then bada bing bada boom. I'm going to assume it's that, but obviously I know the main reason for it. It's just cool imagery. And plus we already get what it's supposed to look like, in my opinion, not 2 pages later. So it's fine. It's just something that caught me super off guard. Because realistically, this should just be an immediate GG. Another thing that is weird though. So if you didn't believe that Sukuna's cleave was an automatic durability negation before, I think we kind of have to believe it now. Because before, one of the biggest things about Sukuna cross-verse, or realistically just in general, was the idea that, oh, well, if he hits you with cleave, it's a GG. It automatically adjusts to your toughness if you have cursed energy. But clearly it doesn't, or else Gojo wouldn't have gotten a nice little love nick on the neck. He would have been beheaded. And we know, at least, once again, I agree with the commenter. I forget, once again, I feel bad because I was responding to comments like a week ago. But I agree with the commenter that, you know, maybe Yuta doesn't know verbatim, like, how much curse energy Sukuna actually has. And thusly trying to, like, scale amounts or stuff like that, or do, like, finger scaling based on that. Because it's so nebulous. It's very weird to say. But we know for a fact that, at least according to Yuta, once again, Yuta could just be wrong, don't get me wrong, Yuta could just be wrong, but I'm just going to do some basic stuff here. Yuta believes that Sukuna has around twice the cursed energy that he does, and then Gojo, at least according to Yuta, has less cursed energy than Yuta. So Gojo is able to not get decapitated by Malevolent Shrine's Cleave. Because once again, we got to remember, Cleave in Malevolent Shrine specifically is what's used to attack things with cursed energy. One of the biggest questions that you constantly see in the community is, oh, was this Cleave? Was this Dismantle? Whenever Sukuna does anything. Because Gege has never actually really given us, like, concrete confirmation of what either is supposed to look like. Especially with the recent thing, like, Sukuna using, like, sort of a finger blicky in order to use Dismantle was also just something completely new. We've never seen him use it like that before, so there's no clear indication on what he's using. Pretty much ever, there's like no clarification on it. It's entirely conjecture on whether or not you think he used Cleave or Dismantle or whatever, especially in cases like Ryu. Who knows? Most likely Cleave. I usually believe when he's attacking people it's Cleave, but hey, you never know. But the big thing that we do know, the one thing that we do have clarification on, is that Malevolent Shrine specifically uses Cleave in order to attack things that have cursed energy. And I don't think I need to convince you that Gojo Satoru, the strongest sorcerer, has cursed energy. So the fact that Gojo tanks it when reasonably he has, just going off of what Yuta thinks, less than half of the cursed energy that Sukuna does, means that that self-adjustment of Cleave isn't that good. Or like, it's less I mean, it's more impressive when you're looking at people who took damage from Cleave. Like, it makes Ryu look more impressive. I get, maybe not even really. It kind of makes things look less impressive. But the fact that Gojo was able to tank it pretty much. Like, maybe it's not so. Maybe it was about to straight up decapitate him, but his RCT moved so fast that all it could do was a slash, but I'm still not sure about that. That's the thing. If you think that Gojo's RCT is just so speedy Gonzalez, that it was actively trying to take his head off, but it just couldn't because he was hitting them quickly, that's fine. But I don't know, just the way Gege draws it here implies that it's a cut. And that it's just that it couldn't cut all the way through because Gojo was bulky enough. I don't know, that kind of makes Sukuna like a lot worse cross-verse. Gojo works cross-verse very, very well because like his abilities are kind of stupid. Like, unless you have resistances on like this, what I believe Miguel in Jujutsu Kaisen said the atomic or like the subatomic, no, it is atomic level to control space. Unless you have those levels of resistances and the very specific immunity to, haha, I'm just going to overload your brain with information, and or B, the ability to literally break a paradox. Like, unless you have those three things in specific, it's very annoying to beat Gojo, even if you supposedly, or do just in general, have way better stats than him. You need to be kind of hacked out yourself to fight with Gojo. Meanwhile, Sukuna, now that it's kind of just proven, I always headcanoned it that you could kind of just tank Cleave. Nothing in the series really suggested that it was 100% Duraneg, or at least I suggested that it was to the limit of Sukuna's cursed energy. Like, it doesn't make sense that he could cleave through something that was higher than his cursed energy. This kind of just confirms that for me. In fact, if we're going with the idea that Gojo does have less cursed energy than Yuta, and Yuta believes that at least Sukuna has twice as much, or even just the same amount, the fact that Gojo was able to eat that kind of makes me believe that a lot of other characters can eat that, and Sukuna becomes way less impressive cross-verse. But that does help with a battle I've been working on, so thank you, Gege. I greatly appreciate that. That just removes a win con. It makes my job so much easier. But regardless of that, it's very interesting to see Gojo immediately using reverse curse technique to heal off the slash. And it's interesting, mainly because I wonder if this was like purely automatic, similar to what he does with his brain, or if it's active. Like, did he have to register the fact that, oh no, I'm about to be decapitated, and then immediately like close the wound? I don't know, because it appears that he starts doing it subconsciously later in the chapter. Like, straight up, he's able to fight and heal at the same time. And I know he does like multiple things at once. His brain is constantly running, but like the brain in running makes sense. That's pure reflex because he's just been practicing it for over a decade now. But like, when do you think, I can't even imagine, what's the last time Gojo had to actually use RCT to like actually do something other than refresh his brain? Because he probably hasn't been pressed since Toji. Like think about it. He has not ever been pressed, or at least not even pressed. He's probably hasn't taken damage since Toji, because Miguel didn't do any damage to him. And that's the last major fight we saw of him. And obviously, the disaster curses, even with their jumpable efforts, they did not do anything to him. So like, bro has kind of just been without RCT for over a decade now, and he immediately starts using it super duper well. I just wonder what that's like for him while he's fighting someone like Sukuna. As we see later on in the chapter, he's able to do it, but still, very, very impressive. And with that being the case, we see that Kusakabe recognizes that, oh, okay, so he used reverse curse technique, so he's going to be able to hold out for at least a little bit. But Higuruma, the Jujutsu genius, as I've come to call him, is like, yes, but Sukuna's slashes won't stop inside his domain. I wonder... Do you think he knows that because he got the deets from Judge Man all that time ago? Like, do you think he knows how Malevolent Shrine works? Like, how detailed is his Judge Man file? Could he use that on, like, well, Sukuna would just open domain back, so it wouldn't work out. But still, I wonder like how knowledgeable is Higuruma in terms of like how this battle actually goes? Because bro learned Jujutsu on his own. Remember that. Bro figured out cursed energy, how to reverse engineer into domain, summon a Shiki. Like, he figured that all out on his own. So he's realistically like the most baby here in terms of actual Jujutsu training and knowledge. But like, how much does he know? What does he know? Does he know? But we do get to see that Choso's like, well, I mean, okay, that's good. He used RCT, but since the barrier's open, why doesn't he just leave? And like... Choso is just like me, for real. Like, at this, I 100% agree with Choso and Akari here, because Akari goes on to say, hey, in Malevolent Shrine, in Malevolent Shrine's maximum effective range is about, let's say the size of Shibuya, then Gojo should be fast enough to get away. And yes, like, Some people were calling me crazy, notably not in the comment section. Shout out to y'all. None of y'all actually disagreed with me on that. Yeah, we were all like slapping off Sukuna last chapter though. So to be fair, there was something else we had to focus on. But some of my friends were like, "Dude, you're crazy. There's no way he could just teleport out of there." And I was like, "Why not?" It's not like he's in a separate space. It's not like he's in a separate space at all. You could just leave. There's like, at least with Gojo, I get every other character. Gojo's the only character in the verse with direct access to teleportation. So why couldn't he just leave? If he could just pop out of there? And some people are like, well, you can't use techniques within a domain. True, but is it really though? Is it really though? Because when you think about it, domain in a domain is technically a technique, right? You're able to counter a domain with your domain. So you can use Jujutsu, and Gojo literally says when domains are introduced, the only way to fight them off is with Jujutsu. So if you have Jujutsu in a domain and you can use it to just leave, why don't you just leave? But regardless, we do get to see that Kusakabe is like, yo, I mean, that's a nice idea. That's a good thought. Maybe if Gojo played the battle a little bit smarter, he could do that. Maybe if Pencil shoved a controller up his butt, he would have been able to figure that out. But no, his instantaneous movement uses Limitless curse technique to compress its space and its coordinates. Gojo's domain was just destroyed, so he can't use his curse technique for a while, which is a really good balancing metric. Notably, I've seen a lot of people talking about, like, I don't know, bro. It seems like this fight's kind of just breaking rules for the sake of breaking rules, so it looks cool. And I do kind of see what they mean, but at the same time, I disagree. Like, this is a hard and fast rule that has been explained before, that we know the ramifications of, and Gege is sticking to. We'll talk about where I feel like it gets a little bit iffy in a little bit. But with that being the case, Gojo not having his technique, obviously that leads me to ask, but that means, and Kusakabe does clarify, yeah, that's right, Gojo's in trouble. And I love how Sukuna reacts to the fact that Gojo's just literally being annihilated. Like, bro, literally, as he's holding the pose for his domain, it's like, I'm glad. With regard to curse technique, I'm overwhelmingly stronger. And, I mean, that's a weird way to phrase it, because I disagree. Now, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. I believe in terms of like caliber of Jujutsu and Jujutsu knowledge in general, yes, 100% Sukuna outclasses Gojo, right? One has been around for 1,000 years and was called the King of Curses. We don't actually know how long Sukuna lived in his original lifetime, because like we know he started out as a human, then evolved beyond humanity in a similar way to what Tengen did. So we actually have no idea how long bro was alive. But Gojo's 28. Sukuna is definitely older than 28, and obviously the Burialist domain and stuff like that. So maybe it's just curse technique. When he says curse technique, maybe he literally means like technique, style, swagger, the exaggerated swagger of a cursed being. But with that being the case, like, it's the weird phrasing. I feel like it would say something like on the lines of, in terms of sheer technique, maybe not curse technique, sheer technique, I'm overwhelmingly stronger, overwhelmingly better. Because yeah, Gojo has a closed barrier while Sukuna has an open one. It's automatically more refined. Though we literally see that they were dead equal. So like, I wouldn't say he's overwhelmingly stronger in terms of sheer curse technique. And I would say so far, if you had to ask me which one I would want at its full power with its peak mastery that we've seen up to this point, Limitless, or I suppose Yorozu called it Shrine. A lot of people have taken to calling it Shrine, so I'm going to call it Shrine. The Shrine technique that has Cleave, Dismantle, and we're going to throw the Fire technique in there as well, because we still don't know how that properly works. I would still take Limitless. I'd still say that's an overall much better technique than Cleave, Dismantle, and everything Shrine has to offer, just because Limitless is actually insane with the 6 eyes. But I don't know. Weird fight. It caught me off guard. I'm not gonna lie. With regards to curse technique, I'm overwhelmingly stronger. Are you really? I'm gonna press X to doubt on that one, Sukuna. But with that being the case, in this scenario, it does make sense, right? He collapsed Gojo's domain, and for all intents and purposes, in every other scenario against literally every other character in the verse, this would be G-Jizzles, because we do get to see Gojo's like torn apart. Like, you literally see the cuts are so deep, so varied, and so widespread, they're actually straight up tearing into the 6 eyes. Like, that is crazy. But once again, they aren't tearing right through him. They're literally just cutting him up. Like, That feels weird, though, just based on how Cleave is supposed to work and the amount of cursed energy that Gojo had. I don't know. The fact that it's doing that, I'm gonna chalk it up to either A, Sukuna just doesn't have like real Duranek. Like maybe he's just not like that. Maybe the narrator isn't just wrong. Maybe it is just up to my interpretation. If you have enough cursed energy, you can bulk out Cleave's effects. I'm gonna assume it's that. And or Gojo's just RCTing that fast at that high of a level. It's just that, you know, Malevolent Shrine, once it really started to put its work in, was doing a little bit too much, so that it seems like Gojo was actually taking damage. Regardless, it's a really cool visual. I love the inked out shadows of both Sukuna and Gojo, and you see Gojo's is much more sloppier and it has all of his life pouring out of him, pouring onto the ground, while Sukuna remains clean and untouched at the top. Gorgeous imagery. Gege heard my complaints about the counter domains. I was like, fine, you want a really cool dynamic shot drawn super duper well? I'll give you that. And he gave me that. However, with that being the case, we do get to see that Gojo's like, you know, I may be from Jujutsu Kaisen, but I ain't afraid to dip. And he immediately ran. And like, I'm not even gonna blame him. Like, notably, I know people are gonna be like, I've seen it already. Oh, Gojo tried to run. I'm sorry, what do you want him to do? Would you like him to stand there? Would you like him to stand there and engage? Like, I have a similar scenario happen to me all the time. Like, whenever I'm playing fighters with my friend who's literally just like a pure solid equal, if one of us ever gets like a little bit of momentum, the other will immediately start to dash around. Like, we'll start to play the most insane game of zoning and keep away that you can ever see. And we'll always be like, dude, why are you running? But obviously why we're running, because we don't want to die. Like, this is the exact scenario. Like, yeah, sure, I could engage you right now. I could try to keep fighting you, even though I'm on Trunks with 50% life, no spark, and 3 bars. I'm gonna stall you out a little bit to see if I can get my bearings. And that's what Gojo was trying to do. He's trying to dip. Though, unfortunately, as Kusakabe mentioned, without his curse technique, he can't teleport, so he was legit just trying to run. And we do get to see that Sukuna's like, bro, I may be alone here, and I may not be using the 10 Shadows technique, but that shrine is independent, bro. Welcome to Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm gonna jump you. And we immediately see him be like, you think I'd let you go? And he immediately starts piecing Gojo. And once again, I'm gonna admit, okay, I'm gonna chalk this up to Sukuna holding back, because I have to. Like, I am still a little bit disappointed with Gege in the idea that we have not gotten original body Sukuna yet. I get it. But it's cooler in Megumi's body. Megumi's body has some sort of mental nerf on Gojo. Obviously, we know Gojo's actually a human being and not like a real, true, genuine monster. So no matter how much he talks about Toji and how he's happy to punch Megumi because he looks like Toji, regardless of all of that, I know. It just is a nice aesthetic to have father and son battling it out. But I really wish we got original body Sukuna, because I don't know. The idea that Gojo, while being inside of Malevolent Shrine, so we know Sukuna does just have the shrine stat buff. He does have the domain stat buff. The fact that this is, once again, 20 finger, or at least the equivalent, because, you know, the last finger is somewhere. All the Nobara fans out there huffing the mightiest of copium, hoping that she's gonna, like, resonance finger Sukuna up out of here. Like, all of that copium aside, this is essentially 20 finger Sukuna. The fact that, like, Gojo, while under the effects of Malevolent Shrine and currently spamming RCT to stay alive, the fact that Gojo's actually able to somewhat keep up with 20 finger Sukuna here, and like, I know, Sukuna doesn't actually take any damage in their physical interaction here. You can very clearly see that. Like, Gojo's doing absolutely no damage. He's kind of just warding Sukuna off, which is the main point. But still, the fact that 20 finger Sukuna isn't just annihilating this man is kind of embarrassing on Sukuna's part. Like, dog, you have 20 fingers. Like, notably, we still have no idea what that means. Like, I agree with everybody. No, there isn't really a clear clarification on what the fingers actually do for Sukuna. If you think it's cursed energy, there are counter arguments against that. If you think it's techniques, we just haven't seen 20 different techniques. If you think it's something else, you're just as equally valid as the previous two, because we haven't gotten a clarification on what they actually do. But still, this is max power Sukuna. And Gojo, while in his own shrine, is not immediately getting one-tapped. Either A, by the shrine, or B, by Sukuna. And either which just doesn't look that good for Sukuna. Like, I don't know. It feels like, I like it. I love the choreography here. I love how you see Sukuna dive, and he gets ahead of Gojo. So he stomps with his Oh wow, that's actually cool. He stomps with his right foot to kick with his left. Gojo blocks and then drags Sukuna in with a knee. But Sukuna, using the fact that Gojo took him off the ground, leg locks his limb and immediately drags him down in order to attempt to flip him. But then Gojo uses his momentum to load up a cursed energy punch to try and slam Sukuna. But Sukuna dodges. Like, once again, the choreography is fantastic. It's juicy. It's delicious. It's scrumdiddlyumptious, if you will. But like, come on, 20 finger Sukuna. This is the best you got. This is what we got. And like, notably, once again, I also understand the character motivation for why this is all Sukuna's doing, because like, yeah, in the same vein to how he had to use the 10 shadows against Yorozu to get full control of the body, because it would just be the more efficient thing to do, the cooler thing to do, the more alpha thing to do, ironically enough, would to be beating Gojo without the 10 shadows. Beating Gojo just by simply beating Gojo with his own technique, rather than relying on a stolen one. So I get why Sukuna's not really getting all too active, but the fact that we're in his domain right now, and things still ain't really getting that active with him is kinda a tad bit disappointing. I kind of want to see him wild out a little bit more. This fight is sticking for good reason. Once again, they're in his domain, but his domain is 200 meters. Let me see some crazy stuff. Let me see Sukuna throw a building at him. like for no other reason than I think it'd be neat, because you have the 200 meter range. Like, I'm not, let me see. Let me do my quick conversions real quick. You have over a skyscraper's worth of distance that you could take this fight, Sukuna. While out a little bit. Like, notably, I was kind of hoping for similar choreography. And notably, we did get this a bit earlier in the fight, but not to the degree I wanted. You know how you know how Sukuna and Jogo were fighting? I was kind of hoping for something like that within Shrine, because I thought that'd be super duper cool to see these two titans like actually go even like that. But they keep the battle pretty small scale. However, with that being the case, enough mauling, enough complaining. The main thing I like about this is that Sukuna fully admits, once again, this is the second time, I do believe, and the second time of the only 2 times that Sukuna's actually given anyone any respect. He's like, it moves well for someone using reverse curse technique at full I can't English. I'm sorry. He moves well It moves well for someone using reverse curse technique at full throttle to keep my slashing attacks at bay. Intriguing. And I do like that. Sukuna, he's not above giving people respect when they deserve it. I still don't buy the Jogo stuff, though. I'm sorry, Jogo fans. I refuse to believe that. I don't even think that was real. like straight up, after literally calling Jogo a weakling for that entire fight, I feel like that was just a Jogo wet dream or whatever happened that had Sukuna calling him strong, because he's literally not. He's not top 15 in the verse. I will fight y'all to the never. I'm not a physical fight. Please don't hurt me. But regardless, Jogo fans, your man ain't strong. But with that being the case, we do get to see that Gojo does realize, apparently Malevolent Shrine Center isn't Sukuna. It's the shrine itself, which is interesting. Very, very interesting. Once again, I don't actively remember the shrine ever spawning in reality, like as a real thing that could be like touched and interacted with, because we've never seen Sukuna actually stand on it. But no, this is a thing that people can see. It isn't just visual representation. Like, you literally see it on the cameras. How are the cameras still like, unless the cameras are like super duper far away? Yo, man, what kind of drone tech do you got right now? But like, the cameras are still working, so they can see Malevolent Shrine. Intriguing that the shrine is the center and not Sukuna. That's pretty good, though. But actually, it's not as good, because that makes it extra easy to escape. Like, notably, this is gonna sound wild, but like, before, I thought, oh, if Sukuna's the center and you try to run, he can just chase you and kind of just be a moving ball of death. like that's just what he would be, just like an endless moving ball of death, because as he chased you, bada bing, bada boom, everything around you within a 200 meter radius is still getting destroyed, meaning that Sukuna, as long as he can maintain the domain, will just consistently be a dangerous threat. But now that we know it's localized to the shrine and not Sukuna, I mean, it's not easy to run away from still. Like, it's gonna be painful. But if you can do the dash and make it go real fast and just leave, like, for example, let's take a character like Galland, right? Say Sukuna opened up Malevolent Shrine on Galland, and Galland just jumped. That's it. Malevolent Shrine wouldn't hit him anymore, because it's not like Sukuna could chase Galland after he jumped, after Galland, because Malevolent Shrine is the center. So if you just escape the 200 meter range, you're good, because then Sukuna would have to shut down the shrine. I mean, he can probably still use his curse techniques outside of the shrine range, but why? I mean, I guess you would maintain it just so he could keep using his curse techniques. It's weird. And notably, it's still a thing that very few characters can do. But Galen literally came to mind because I'm writing a fight between the two. So, like, that was just something that happened to come to mind, and is an interesting tidbit. Once again, these chapters are full with a bunch of little interesting tidbits of information that are really, really nice to have, on top of, obviously, the fight between the two strongest in history. But, with that being the case, we do get to see that Yuji asks the question that now is proposed with the idea that the shrine is the center. It's the nexus point of Malevolent Shrine. The shrine is the shrine of the shrine. Haha. Shrineception. But with that being the case, Yuji asks, what if that shrine was trashed? And we see that Kusakabe, who doesn't have a domain, but I guess he made the new Shadow Style symbol domain, so I guess it could work. He says, ordinarily, construct... I'm not going to keep doing that voice for him, because one, I can't do it. So we're just going to give him a regular voice. Ordinarily, concrete manifestations of innate domains don't have special meaning or function. In other words, they might as well not exist. And we see Mei not counter, but follow that up with the idea that if the shrine is merely a symbol of the domain, then it can't be broken. There's no point in trying. If Gojo with his 6th size hasn't attempted to do so, then that must be the case. Okay, I get Mei's line of logic here, but does she expect him to punch it? Like, I get it, he does basically just punch it later on in the chapter, but like, Mei, the domain just started hitting it. Like, admittedly, we do get a little bit of interaction, and they're obviously able to have this whole conversation, but like, Mei, give him some time. Let him think. Let him study. Bro just got the details. He just witnessed Malevolent Shrine for the first time, and like, notably, maybe you guys didn't even tell him it was barrierless in the first place, so who knows how much he actually knew going in. Mei, let him cook a little bit. Let him cook. And with that being the case, we see Kirara being like, oh no, is there nothing he can do? And for the most part, I would have kind of agreed, but then we get to see that Gojo Satoru is in fact Timothy Herner as he whips out new Shadow Style, Simple Domain. Interesting. Once again, I do wonder why this doesn't count. I mean, I guess it's just your technique that gets shut down. It doesn't mean you can't use non-jujutsu related techniques. And it's not like Simple Domain has ever been established to like tie into one's curse technique at all. But still, it feels weird that Gojo, while having his curse technique shut down, is able to pull out a Simple Domain. But once again, Simple Domain is something entirely separate from curse technique. And we know you get curse technique burnout. You don't get like cursed everything burnout, or else like Earl would have died. Like, notably when you would have kicked her in the back of the head. Well, actually, no. Maybe she would have. I mean, if they both don't have any curse energy able to reinforce themselves with it, at least at that time, then I think Uro died. But then again, they died from hitting the ground without curse energy reinforcement. So, interesting. Simple Domain does get whipped out by Gojo here. And I do like it. I do like how this is oh so familiar. I remember the last person who whipped out a Simple Domain against a barrierless domain user. She isn't with us anymore. But regardless, we do get to see that Kusakabe is like, wait, what? Simple Domain? How couldn't I think of this technique that I made up myself? And we see that Yuji's like, wait, didn't Gojo Sensei say he couldn't do it? And I actually don't even remember him saying that. Like, being completely real, I know Gege threw that line in there so people would address it, or like just in case he doesn't get called out later, but I genuinely don't even remember a scenario where Gojo would have had to use that Yuji knows that Gojo said he couldn't use it. When would he have? Someone tell me. I'm gonna ask y'all kindly and sincerely. Someone please tell me when it was established, or at least hinted at, that Gojo couldn't do that, or he said that he couldn't do that. I genuinely don't remember, because when would he have even seen a Simple Domain user and specifically been talking with Yuji? Like, I reread like the Gojo Jogo fight all the time. I don't remember Simple Domains even being brought up then. Were they even introduced at that point? And then afterwards, like, I have no idea. Not a singular clue. But with that being the case, regardless, Gege does cover his behind with I guess it's not a retcon, based on what Kusakabe says here. And who knows, once again, I don't remember when Yuji or Gojo had this interaction where it was mentioned that he couldn't use it. But the quote-unquote retcon with Kusakabe saying, no, he said he can't teach it. Natural geniuses can't teach for a squad. And that is true. Like, notably, I'm no natural genius. I am, unfortunately... Well, I mean, not unfortunately, I'm happy. I'm able to work hard and do things that other people can do easier with time and effort, which is still a good thing. I'm glad I can do things at all. But, like, I know natural geniuses, and they're absolutely... Well, Kusugamis is absolutely right here. They cannot teach anything, mainly because they never had to learn. Like, I remember one friend of mine back when I was struggling in like calculus. They were like, "Hey, yo, bro, you just do this, 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 and that." And I was like, "Dog, I know. The teacher said that. I don't understand how to do this, 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 and that." I'm like, "Dude, you just got to do it." And I'm like, "That does not help me." Bro is an absolute genius. I think he literally graduated with a 4.0. But regardless, regardless of the superhuman nature of these individuals, they usually are pretty bad teachers just because they don't know how to teach. It's always, if you want to learn something, go to someone who didn't get it at first, because they will teach you how they understood it, which typically involves more elaborate but helpful steps. Don't ask me for help though. I'm still just a bad teacher. Like, no, I'm no natural genius, but I'm also just a bad person to teach. Like, someone asked me, "Can you show me how to draw?" And I'm like, I can barely draw myself. And 2, no. So obviously, some people just aren't cut out to be teachers. I'm one of those people. But with that being the case, we see, I don't know who says this. Maybe it's Yuji, but I'm assuming it's someone like Maku who says, "Then don't make a guy like that the teacher for first years." And that is a good point. Like, why is Gojo a teacher? Or at least a teacher for first years, maybe second years and third years once they get like the elements of Jujutsu. But yeah, him being a first year teacher does seem like kind of a waste. But with that being the case, we do get to see that apparently what Gojo is using this for is to allow him some breathing room, essentially. Symbol Domain will negate the guaranteed hit, and thusly Gojo will be able to focus most likely and most purely on healing, which will allow him to keep his body in mostly top shape. However, intriguingly enough, he does have scars. And this is interesting because I remember a while ago was people were wondering, actually no, it's not people, it's me. And it wasn't a while ago, it was like 5 chapters ago. I'm wondering, why does Hana not have her arm back, Gege? Because before we were justifying it with the idea that, oh, maybe because of the whole soul attacking thing that Sukuna and the Yuji do, since they have 2 souls in them, you know, maybe it's that. Maybe for some reason or another, due to that very specific scenario, that's why Hana couldn't get her arm back. That's why it couldn't be RCT'd back. But Hikari's could. Because, you know, Hikari's got decimated. I was about to say destroyed, but no, really decimated by Kashimo's Curse Energy Burst. But, you know, maybe he got his grown back because Sukuna has the soul attacking thing. And you can't heal damage that attacks the shape of the soul and stuff like that. We know that with Mahito. You can't use RCT for that. So a lot of people were theorizing that, oh, maybe Gojo's bites and attack. Not Gojo. Gojo biting. I know a lot of people want to be bit by Gojo, but not that bite. Sukuna's bites and like any attacks that he do. What did I told? Would you believe me if I told you I speak English? But regardless, the attacks that Sukuna does, they would have the soul attacking effect, and thusly they would, you know, not allow the RCT. But clearly that's not the case because Gojo's up to RCT. So Gege, I need you to look me in the eyes, man. Why did you not give Hana her arm back? Gege, I need good reasoning, bro, because now this just proves, I know Gojo is the exception to a lot of the rules. Thusly, I should not expect him to follow the same conventional rules as a lot of other characters in the verse, but that's just bad writing. So give me a good reason why you took Hana out the narrative. Gege, I'm not gonna lie, you are 1 for like 5 on good female characters. You know, I'll give you 2. I really like Nobara, even though she kind of just got fridged. Like, okay, she didn't get fridged. People still, like, it's not an example of fridging. Nobara did not get fridged. But she did get knocked for Yuji's character development. And it's so close to fridging that it might as well be a cooler. But with that being the case, like, it's just Maki. Yuki, Angel, heck, everyone else, like, legitimately, Gege, you are not helping your case, bro. I need some reason why Hana's not back in this fight. But with that being the case, we do get to see a major question now kicking around is, wait, what? You fuel symbol domain with regular cursed energy, but he's using RCT. Like, how do you even do that? Like, how can you do reverse curse technique and normal cursed energy control at the same time? And I would agree that this kind of crazy, I mean, it's not too crazy though, because you know, or at least we know, that you can use RCT yet keep your curse energy bulk. RCT doesn't actively bulk you up. Like, it doesn't give you curse energy reinforcement. You still need base curse energy for that. So I think curse energy manipulation stacked on top of RCT isn't too crazy, but I get what they mean. This is a very specific application of curse energy. I was about to say curse technique. This is a very specific application of curse energy that's also being used alongside extremely high level RCT. But still, very, very interesting. And it is cool to see that Gojo has scars now. I wonder if that's going to make his fan base even more fair for him. I really wonder. But yo, quick question. I know. I'm sounding like a Gojo fan right here. Oh, shock horror. But why his clothes still on? Or at least, why are they still perfectly intact? Like, here's the thing, right? I get it. We are in Shonen Jump. Then again, we have Chainsaw Man in this manga. So, or like in this magazine. So realistically, there's no excuse. But why, like, not even a whiff of damage? You're telling me his clothes didn't get damaged at all? Like, and like, notably, it's so visible that the clothes took absolutely no damage. Like, there's not a rip or anything. Like, at least a little bit, like a little. And I know. People are gonna be like, oh, pencil. So you want Gojo to take his clothes? No, I'm legit just wondering. Does this mean that if Gojo, and why is his hair not cut too? Like, does his hair not get reinforced by cursed energy? Did Cleave and Dismantle just ignore that? But like, legitimately, why is bro like this? I don't know. It seems a little bit goofy. The fact that his clothes are perfectly intact. Like, you're telling me if Gojo just covered himself from head to toe and like a super jumpsuit, he'd be perfectly fine because Cleave and Dismantle wouldn't be able to break it or breach it? Is that just the rule? Is that how you beat Sukuna? Wear armor and you're just perfectly fine? I don't know. It just seems super weird that he got torn to pieces, but his shirt and pants are literally perfectly fine. Like, and his pants are white, at least presumably. You know, manga coloring versus actual coloring can be completely different. But for all intents and purposes, his pants are white. You're telling me none of that life juice that was literally pouring all over the floor not 2 pages ago didn't even stain his pants? I get why Gege didn't do it, because once again, that is a lot to draw. And heck, I don't blame him for not wanting to draw more. But still, in universe, come on out, bro. You know, like, you still perfectly intact. It's kind of crazy. However, we do get to see that Choso's like, I ain't gonna lie to you, dog. Like, that's nice. Him pulling out Symbol Domain is really, really cool. It's really, really neat. But, dog, that ain't really going too much. At least in comparison to a real domain, the curse energy output versus an actual burialist domain, it's not going to hold out for all too long. And this similar thing happens once again to what we saw with Yuki. The symbol domain does immediately get torn apart. However, with that being the case, as Gojo goes in to start to fight Sukuna, the last of the domain breaks off, and then Gojo immediately gets torn apart again. So this is just a consistent thing that he's going to need to fight off by reactivating Symbol Domain, which he immediately does. So that's the thing. Symbol Domain is viable enough against, I guess, any domain, but it's just not that long lasting. Once again, this is Gojo Satoru, like the strongest sorcerer. If his Symbol Domain falls against Malevolent Shrine, I'm pretty sure anyone's Symbol Domain would fall. Whether it be Yuta, Hikari, anybody who could hypothetically have Symbol Domain, I don't think it would last very, very long if Gojo's immediately gets torn apart. However, a really cool thing to note is just because of Gojo's high levels of curse energy, presumably, his Symbol Domain is really, really big in comparison to all the ones we've seen before. Like, if you'll notice, Yuki's domain was pretty tiny. Like, it only reached probably like maybe her wingspan around her, but Gojo's Symbol Domain is like, I wouldn't say it's that big. It's kind of like the size of a sumo ring, ironically enough. So that's pretty cool. It's a nice way to show the difference in level of Symbol Domains in comparison to people who have less curse energy or simply are not as strong as Gojo. But obviously, with Sukuna being able to casually just keep up with Gojo and tear through him still with the rest of the shrine still being active, it's all good. And once again, it's cool to see that maintaining shrine, thanks to Sukuna's curse energy efficiency, is nothing to him. Like, he's not even really focused on shrine anymore. It's kind of just like an environmental hazard. Just hilarious. It's kind of just like the storm. Like, notably, I don't play games like that, but I know all my friends who do play FPSs are always like, oh no, the storm, it's coming. And I'm like, ayo. But regardless, we do get to see that Sukuna actually finds Symbol Domain tedious, which is interesting. I guess that means he can't just punch Gojo. I know it sounds stupid, but like, if this really was an issue, right? Like, oh no, Gojo can open Symbol Domain, and Sukuna was really like that. Like, put me in Sukuna's shoes, and I don't care how tedious it is. I'm punching Gojo in the mouth as hard as I physically can, so he just goes out of his Symbol Domain. Like, I'm not giving bro time to activate it. Like, maybe I'm just too. Maybe I'm expecting too much of Sukuna, but like, bro, just punch him in the mouth. And notably, something even crazier happens. It's like even more concerning to me. Like, this is 20 finger Sukuna, yo. 20 finger. 20 beans. 20 beans. 20 beans. Not one bean, not two bean, not red bean, not blue bean. No, 20 beans Sukuna. And then Gojo proceeds to catch everybody off guard. Yuta, Kashimo, Hikari, Kusakabe. I almost said Higuruma. Everyone. He's like, huh? Because Gojo stops using reverse curse technique. Like, just entirely. He just stops using it. And notably, for a second, this makes sense. Because he's still using simple domain. Like, for a moment, it does seem logistical for him to do this. Because he's still using simple domain. So he's just focusing more of his energy probably on simple domain and just throwing hands with Sukuna, so Sukuna probably doesn't punch him in the mouth, considering that's probably Sukuna's next step. I don't know. If I was Sukuna, I just would have punched him in the mouth. But with that being the case, we see that the question starts to be asked, ayo, is he done, son? Like, is he really out like that? And Yuta's like, no, not at all. Impossible, indubitably, no. And to be fair, as a Gojo Glazer myself, I have to 100% agree with Yuta here, in spite of what Ino says, because Ino's like, under no orders, I can't read it, I swear. Under ordinary circumstances, sure he wouldn't, but he's continued to burn reverse curse technique at full blast immediately after opening his domain. It's expended likely twice the usual amount of cursed energy, and all while the powerful Sukuna has been attacking non-stop. And like, true, but you know, I mean, like, maybe he just doesn't get it, bro. But like, at least the way the six eyes were described, like, it took what, 3 days to run out. Not yet, I think even more. It took like nearly a week, I think, to run out Gojo of his cursed energy. And that wasn't even really running him out of his cursed energy. That was just to make him fatigued. Like, to actually get bro a little bit tired as a teenager before he had actually mastered the six eyes and RCT and all this stuff like that. It took multiple days. And that was just for Toji to stand a chance against him before his awakening. Now, post-awakening, I know, bro seems like it would burn a lot of cursed energy, but his efficiency is so good, thanks to the six eyes, that I really doubt it. Like, even though it would make sense that someone spamming RCT of this level, on top of just using domain, on top of popping out simple domains, on top of having spammed a 200% hollow purple, on top of spamming all, like, everything, Gojo's been nothing but throwing out the big ones. Like, it's probably taken up 1% of his cursed energy. Like, if that, like, at least if the way Yuta described it is true. Like, he loses little to no cursed energy doing anything. And, like, when you have at least a little bit under, or who knows, maybe even a decent chunk under Yuta's amount of cursed energy, I feel like if you lose little to none of it when you fight, he's probably fine. And with that being the case, Gojo and Sukuna, they start patty caking, but Sukuna's like, alright, fine, I'm done with this. And he proceeds to just let Gojo get cut up. And like, I'm assuming that, once again, just for my sanity, and like to not be full anti-Sukuna glaze, because, you know, I still like Sukuna. Like, I'm rooting for Gojo in this fight, and I believe Gojo will win. But even in spite of that, I'm gonna have to like, I'm gonna hold off the glaze on Gojo for a little bit and just hope that Sukuna's just toying with them. Like, Sukuna just genuinely made a mistake. Like, in the same vein that Gojo made a mistake trying to go bar for bar, domain for domain with Sukuna, I'm going to assume that Sukuna just made the mistake of thinking, I'm in my domain. He is going to perish one way or another. There's no need for me to actually engage with him, because he literally steps back. Like, I mean, maybe you could argue Gojo kicks him back here, because Sukuna blocks a kick, and then he's pushed back, and then you see the rest of Gojo's symbol domain tear apart, and then he starts getting cut again. But like, Sukuna, get active, bro. Like, especially considering he doesn't have the infinity right now. If I'm Sukuna, fine, let's say I don't want to punch him in the mouth for one reason or another, I'm pulling out a fire arrow. I'm pulling something out, like at least a fire. Like, again, maybe not pulling out the 10 shadows technique, because, you know, the whole pride argument, oh, it's not his technique. He said he was going to defeat Gojo when he was in Itadori's body, so beating him only with Shrine would be the equivalent of beating him in Itadori's body, except in a hypothetically weaker vessel, because it's Mega. I mean, I still need to make a video on that, on whether or not, like, the vessel actually mattered all that much, because it could have implication for scaling, or it couldn't. It really, but then again, it's because the Sukuna is just so annoying, because we don't have an actual clarification on what the fingers do. But still, regardless, the fact that Sukuna is not getting actively active with Gojo definitely feels like a little bit, like, I'm leaning towards character / plot. And I'm leaning more towards plot, because I don't know, Sukuna's shown to get active. Like when he can dominate somebody, he's shown to get super duper active. And of course, you know, Gojo is his one true equal at this point, at least from what we've seen so far in terms of like technique, precision. It's just that Sukuna has, you know, the extra refinement with the barrier, or lack thereof, or open. I guess not lack thereof, because it's an open barrier. But still, with that being the case, I don't know, Sukuna. Like, you should have gotten a bit more active, dog. And we see as another slash because to tear up Gojo. And like once again, I gotta repeat this every single time. This is my disclaimer. And once again, the art has still fantastic almost everywhere else in the chapter. But this one image of Gojo getting torn apart right before the panel that says, "Is Gojo going to lose?" And I don't know, it just looks super duper. Like, part of me thinks it's purposeful. Like, part of me thinks Gege did it on purpose. Because, like, how much more effort would it have been to draw a couple lines for detail in his hair? Like, notably, that's something I do to add a whole bunch of detail to my drawings whenever I'm doing them. I just, like, I throw, like, 15, 20 lines in there to show like hair separation and detail. And you literally see he started to like sketch at least Gojo's undercut. So like he could have sketched it. So I feel like this is on purpose that he made it look like this, but this does look like a incomplete drawing. But then again, it still has features that other things are missing. Like notably the all black shirt is also on the previous page in a panel that I think looks fine. The cuts are fine. Like, everything else is fine. I don't know. It just seems like a little bit under quality. But I suppose this kind of deals with, like, the fading out effect of questioning, oh, no, is Gojo actually going to lose? And then, need I remind you, he's the strongest. So, losing was nothing but a dream. A fantasy born of those who cannot understand what they were fighting. And Gojo immediately, like, I'm not sure what this was like, but the fact that, like, I'm not gonna say Sukuna got blitzed, right? Because obviously he does look dead at Gojo. He gets caught off guard a bit because he does like, his speed just now is what? But the fact that Gojo went from seemingly like a 1 foot standing position in the middle of being slashed as his simple domain was being torn apart to immediately leaping and essentially bear hugging Megami or Maguna is kind of crazy. Like, the fact that Sukuna didn't just like grab him by the forehead and slam him into the ground is kind of impressive. Like, I know. Once again, I'm trying to glaze Sukuna fans. I'm trying to not glaze Sukuna fans. I'm trying to glaze Sukuna for Sukuna's fans. Because, like, I don't know, y'all. This is kind of embarrassing. The fact that in his own domain, he kind of gets done a little bit dirty. Because guess what? When Gojo lunges in and gives Maguna a hug, it's not just to rip Megami out of him and be like, hey kid, remember when I hugged you like this? Because I highly doubt it ever happened. We see that he whips out Curse Technique Reversal. And he leans back. I don't know. This is another one of my favorite panels in the series. And solely for the fact that it looks so epic and raw in all the different ways. Like the way Gojo's literally torn apart. Once again, not a single splatter of anything on his pants or his shirt. Not torn up at all. I'm not saying I want to see Gojo just letting it all hang out. But come on now, bro. Really? You're telling me not a single bit of his clothes got torn up even in the slightest? What? But with that being the case, he loads back. And in a similar vein, I specifically think he did this because of what Sukuna did with this mantle. He reels back with his left hand is pulled back and his right hand is extended like a blicky. And he immediately loads up. And you're just like, nah, ain't no way. Is bro like that? Is bro actively like, is bro on that type of timing right now? Is that possible? Maybe he couldn't heal his body because he was using reverse curse technique to heal out his burned out curse technique. Interesting. It's weird that it's used healing. Like, I guess that's not... Once again, I mentioned this a bit earlier. It feels like we're breaking some things, but technically it's not. Like, just pulling stuff like this does feel a little bit like, huh? You can do that? And, like, another big thing, we see that he does use red. He does use a curse technique within a domain, which should be, like, illegal. Like, that should be against the rule set. And also, this is just red. And I don't know, like, notably, it's mostly damage to the face, right? Like, you see a lot of the damage that Sukuna takes is directly to his face. But, like, still, the fact that this red did so much, well, not so much. Oh, wait, is his arm? Nah, his arm's still there. So, yeah, it mainly just marked up his face. But darn, the fact that a random red came out the cut and just did that to Sukuna fresh after the technique was restored is kind of crazy. And we see that bada bing bada boom, the shrine gets destroyed. Like Sukuna literally gets launched into his shrine and it takes a decent chunk of damage, and suddenly we see the chapter end with Gojo being like, whew, that wasn't easy, and he heals up. So presumably Malevolent Shrine is done, and if that's the case, Sukuna, you better change faces or get ready for this like, because now Gojo has his technique back. So that's just something he does have. Notably, Sukuna could do the same thing Gojo did. If we're going with Yuta's theory here that he used RCT to restore his technique, Sukuna could whip around and do the exact same thing. But now what? Because I don't think Gojo is going to be dumb enough to go head-to-head in the domain clash again. I don't think that's going to happen again. So if Sukuna opens domain, then Gojo's leaving. Like he's not gonna play that game twice unless he spontaneously awakens to a barrierless domain and they really have like a true even fight. But what now? Is it 10 Shadows time? I think it's 10 Shadows time, y'all. Like, especially considering the Infinity should now be back on. Like, there's no reason it shouldn't be back on full automatic. I don't think he's going to use the flame. I just don't think we're going to see that. He may pull out another technique, but I think the flame is going to be kind of useless now. And domains is kind of done. Like, I don't see either of these characters opening. Like, the only thing I could hypothetically see is as Sukuna's recovering right here, right now, Gojo drops domain. Like, straight up right on his dome piece. Like, I know that'd be crazy, but think about it. Gojo has his technique back. And now with Shrine seemingly taken out through the destruction of the main Shrine, it's entirely possible that Gojo could just reopen domain. And then Sukuna loses because he doesn't have his technique. And who knows? We're not exactly sure how long it took Gojo to restore his cursed technique with RCT, but Sukuna should follow the same rules regardless. He should still have a lot. But then again, actually, no, not really. I think Sukuna may be exempt to the rules. Because I just remembered, right after using Domain in Shibuya, he whipped out the Flame Arrow and one-tapped Maharaga. So maybe Sukuna is exempt to it, or maybe he already knows how to use RCT to restore technique. I don't know. But I think this may be a Domain Chi-Chi for Gojo or something like that. I think something along those lines. Though it is interesting, this is confirmed that Gojo does now have battle scars, permanent ones. Even though he's RCTing a lot of the cuts away, there are explicitly scars on him now, rather than anything like permanently healed. He's not as gorgeous, Gojo fans, but I don't know, some of y'all probably will fiend for this more, the new fiend for base Gojo, so do what you will, I ain't here to judge. But regardless, this was a very, very good chapter. I mean, obviously, I'm saying that as a Gojo glazer, but even still, the art in this chapter, for the most part, is pretty heat. I do like a lot of the shots. I like the shot on the opening page. I like the shot of Gojo in the shrine healing off the damage from RCT. I love the panel of Shrine tearing into Gojo and Sukuna grinning at him, being like, nyah, 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 nyah. I love the little close quarter combat interactions we have, even though I do wish it was slightly larger scale and I do wish it was 4-arm Sukuna. We still got time. That could still definitely happen. So building up like this is nice. I do like seeing Gojo use Simple Domain. Sure, it does feel a little bit strange, but hey, why not? If he is the strongest sorcerer, of course he would have Simple Domain in his bag. And it's cool to see how Gojo realistically power played it. Like bro literally just said, I got a bunch of HP, I'm gonna tank this real quick, and then proceeded to smack Sukuna in the face with red and actually do decent amount, well, not decent amount, like pretty size. I mean, to be fair, it's just his face, and it seems like a skin level wound, and Sukuna can just heal that off. But still, pretty impressive they did that with just a casual red. To address the one thing though, a lot of people are wondering how Gojo was able to use red within Sukuna's domain, because domains in general are supposed to shut down techniques. I think that can either be chalked up to one of two things. Either A, you go back to what Gojo said, oh, you just fight a domain with Jujutsu that could include your curse technique, and maybe domains just shut down passive ones, like hypothetically the Infinity is more of a passive technique, and thusly it gets negated. But other active techniques, as long as you can use them, since they're Jujutsu to fight in a domain, you can use them as Jujutsu to fight in a domain. Or another one, you could argue that since red is fueled by reverse curse technique and not regular cursed energy, then since he used reversal red, the negation effect caused by the domain's cursed energy was shut down by the RCT. Because we know RCT has the ability to negate cursed energy properties. Like the Tranquil Deer, that's its whole thing. Like, it releases RCT not just to heal the user, but to also negate any cursed energy manipulation taking place within an object. And even though Sukuna's domain is open barriered, that doesn't mean there isn't cursed energy manipulation going on. So using RCT like that, almost as like a counter to cursed energy, since it literally is, I think that's the other way you could rationalize it. Though I do admit, I do kind of want an explanation if we're going to do the thing we've been doing for the previous couple chapters where we've been flashing back to the main cast to see what they say. I do hope we get some sort of explanation on that, because it'd be nice. But overall, WWW chapter. I am expecting Sukuna to get his get back next week because we are on break. But overall, I do think this is definitely like a one-up for Gojo. He is taking some extreme damage here. He is looking much more rough than Sukuna is, even though Sukuna literally has half his face blown off. So it still could get tragic. New Paddock. You know, this stuff is automatic. But regardless, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the notifications to miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. So for as low as $1 a month. Get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off.